Today we are sewing the Avery Sweatpant. This will be a step-by-step instructional video that follows along with the booklet that you have. In your kit you will find a drawstring cord, a safety pin, an elastic used for the waistband, 4 pockets, these will be labeled number 3, 2 back pant panels labeled number 2, and 2 front pant panels labeled number 1. The back will have a deeper crotch where the front will have a shallower crotch. Note the notches, this is where you'll be starting and stopping for your drawstring. This section on the side seam is where your pocket will attach. For this video, I will be serging everything together, but you can always machine sew. Step 1, take your pant panel labeled number 1. Place these 2 pieces right sides together. We will be lining up the rise and serging it together along the edge. With your back panel labeled number 2, you will lay these as well right sides together and line up the rises. You will serge this edge together. Do not make the same mistake as me here. Between those 2 notches right there on the front rise, we will leave a gap. I serge right through. Do not do this. Start and then stop and then start again between the 2 notches. This leaves an opening for the draw cord. After the second notch, you can serge all the way down through the rise. And every time we stop sewing, we will make sure to trim our threads. Once the rise is attached, this is what it'll look like. Repeat the same step with the 2 back panels. You can serge all the way through this rise. There is no notches on this one. Once finished, this is what it'll also look like. Now that the fronts are attached and the backs are attached, we will be attaching the pockets. This is where the pockets will be attached. Take 2 pockets and lay them right sides together, matching them up with the pant indentations. From here, you will serge down the sides just like this. Repeat the same step with the 2 front panels. Lay the pant right side up with the pockets right side down, so the right sides are together. And serge down the pocket sides. You'll want to make sure the top of the pocket is facing the top of the pant. The side of the pocket that dips down right here is the bottom of the pocket. This part should be pointing towards the hem. Once you have those 2 lined up, you'll serge down the pocket side. Repeat this on all 4 sides. Once your pockets are attached, this is what it'll look like. Now we will take the front of the pant and the back of the pant and lay them right sides together. From here, we are just lining up the side seams and the pocket. To attach, there'll be 1 continuous serge all the way around the pocket and down. When attaching the pocket to the pant, we want to make sure our seams line up. So as you sew, just make sure to line up those 2 seams. And as well, make sure the seam allowance is facing toward inside the pocket. Take your time lining up the bottom and top of the pocket when you sew. As you can see, I'm going straight down, and then once I get to the pocket, I'm making sure to open and line up my seams. Carefully, as I push the fabric through the machine, I make sure to press in the seam allowance towards the inside of the pocket. As you pivot, pull it straight and make sure we're always serging in a straight line and not curving it into the machine. Repeat the same step for the bottom of the pocket, making sure to line up the seam and pressing the seam allowance into the pocket. Once the pocket is attached, serge straight down into the hem. Once sewn together, this is what it'll look like. Repeat the same steps for the opposite side seam. Now our pants are attached front and back all the way down the side seams. The next step is to attach the crotch and the inseam. Just like before, locate your two seams and make sure that they are lined up. When we sew this part together, we will be making sure that the seam allowance is facing one side. Start from one hem and work your way all the way around in a U shape to the other hem. As you can see, I'm starting from the bottom of one pant leg and I'm going all the way up and through. It is important to always be lining up your raw edges as best as you can. As I approach the crotch seams, I'm making sure to line them up and press my seam allowance to one side. Continue sewing the other inseam all the way through down to the hem of the pant. The next step is to take our elastic waistband and we will be overlapping it into a hoop shape about 3/4. From here, you will sew down the middle. Always making sure to backstitch at the beginning and end of stitch lines. This is what it'll look like. Now that we have our pants all together and our waistband attached, we will now be attaching the elastic waistband to the top of the pant. Making sure to keep it wrong side out, sticker side out. The seam of the elastic will attach to the wearer's left side. Evenly folding it in half, you will attach this to the other side seam. Pin into place. Now that both of the side seams are pinned into place, we will find the middle of those two and pin the center back and center front. This will keep the elastic even as we attach it to the pant. So once again, finding the midpoint and then attaching it to center back. The elastic is smaller than the pant. This will allow your pant to be able to cinch around you. Serge the pant and the elastic together. In the sections from pin to pin, you will pull the elastic so it lines up with the fabric. Always remove your pins before you begin sewing. As you can see, I'm carefully lining up those raw edges. We will repeat this step all the way around the waistband, so pulling it so it's even with the fabric, but careful not to stretch the fabric itself, and serge to the next pinpoint. Once the elastic is attached, this is what it'll look like. We can now take our pants and flip it right side out, so sticker side in. From here, we will roll the elastic inside the pant twice so that it finishes with a seamless look. When rolling the elastic in, we'll make sure to line up the seam with the seam and pin into place. Once again, we'll pin this elastic into place at both side seams, the center front and the center back. From here, we will sew the waistband all the way around. Put your waistband into the machine so the inside is facing up. And from the edge of the serge, we'll measure a 1/2 inch, and that's where we'll be sewing. As a guide, you can mark with a piece of tape so you can follow along as you sew. And once again, gently stretch the elastic as you sew it down and along. You should be sewing 3 layers of fabric here: the elastic, the inside of the waistband, and the outside of the waistband. This style, by the way, is called a grow-on waistband. As you get to the end, make sure to overlap for security. You will now repeat the same step, except you will be sewing at 3/8 from the top edge. Gently stretch the elastic as you sew, careful not to stretch the fabric. As a final detail, I like to line up the edge of my presser foot with the previous seam near the serge. From here, we will sew along in a straight line. To recap, on your waistband, you will have 3 stitch lines, just like this. We will now be moving on to the hem of our pants. If you choose to do a jogger style and do the elastic, you will do the same steps as we had done with the elastic waistband, but on the hem of the pants. Because I already demonstrated that, I will show you the straight leg hem. Firstly, we will serge all the way around the raw edge. Repeat this on both hems. Once you have finished your serge, you will take your hem to the sewing machine. From here, you will roll in your hem. Now, the size of this can be up to you, but I rolled mine in about 1.25 inches. So when I went to sew it in the sewing machine, I lined it up with my 1 inch mark and sewed just above the serge. When rolling up the hem, always make sure to line up the seam with the seam on the side. Once finished, this is what it should look like. Repeat on the other hem. Next, we are revisiting the waistband. If you remember back in the video, I told you to leave the gap between those 2 notches in the rise when sewing the front panels together. So that gap on the waistband will now be at center front, and it'll be a little hole in the inside of the pant. You will now take our safety pin and attach it to the draw cord, putting it through the hole. You're going to maneuver this safety pin around through the sweatpant waistband. So just slowly push it little bits at a time, have the fabric bunch around it, and then pull it back through just like that. Once your cord is all the way around and through, you can remove the safety pin and tie 2 knots in the end. This is what it should look like. If you haven't already, you can now go ahead and remove all the stickers remaining on the wrong side of the pant. The last step is to attach our label and content tags. Folding the content care label in half, we're going to attach it to the center back with the label placed on top. With the serge of the waistband flipped out, carefully sew the content care label to the end. Once that is sewn on, place the label so the stitch line of the content care label is covered, and sew down each of the short sides. And this is what it should look like. As a rule of thumb, a garment is never completed without pressing it first. Make sure to press your pockets, hems, waist, and any wrinkles that may be in the rest of the pant. The Avery Sweatpant is now complete. See you next time.